Hello, welcome to my channel. Today I've got a furniture flip for you. So just a warning, I am not an expert. I don't do this for a living. I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea what I'm doing, okay? The only thing I've ever done is refinished a couple of IKEA pieces and they turned out okay, but I didn't consult the internet. I watched some YouTube videos and consulted with ChatGPT, and there are multiple ways I could go about doing this, but I think I've narrowed down my plan and have an idea of what I'm going to do. So I did pick this up on Facebook Marketplace for $50. It was an impulse buy. I'm not sure where I'm going to use it. Maybe in the living room. I may just flip it. I did look up the manufacturer and I found this exact piece listed for sale on Cherish for like $1,700. So it's definitely worth something. There is some water damage on the top and there is some veneer that's just flaking off. We've got some missing hardware, but I love this burl wood on the front. I just need to tone down that orange. So we'll see. And I have an idea in my head on kind of how I want it to look when I'm done with it. So hopefully it's not a complete disaster. So if you want to see how this turns out, then stick with me to the end. So here I'm just doing a once over cleaning with some all-purpose cleaner just to kind of disinfect it, because you don't want to know what we found in these drawers. It was quite shocking. Some human teeth is one thing we found. Ugh. Anyway, next step is I'm removing the hardware. And after I'm done with that, I'm going to give it another clean with some mineral spirits. And that, I understand, is what everyone recommends to clean wood because it kind of attracts the dust and gives it a little condition real quick. And yeah, so that's what I'm doing here. So here you can see the water damage. There was some of this top was just kind of bubbled up and the veneer was really brittle and there were some pretty big chunks. And here you can see the texture a little bit better, some of the bumps and bubbles. Okay, so the veneer on the top here is very delicate. It's very dry and flaky, and I was kind of worried about how to handle this. The internet said to lightly sand, just scuff sand with 320 grit sandpaper, which I did, and it said that if it starts to lift up and flake off, to stop immediately. So I did, because it was. So I stopped. I did scuff sand just the edges here when I first started looking into what to do with this. And the burl parts took the sanding okay, but this was definitely flaking. So according to ChatGPT and Google, they said to, or it said to get shellac, um, traditional finish in sealer, because it said that the shellac will kind of like melt together the fibers and kind of reconnect things and smooth everything out a little bit. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to give it a light sand after that and see how that goes. And yeah, so we'll see. All right, you guys, I made just about every single mistake you could possibly make working on this project, and it took me forever. And I thought about cutting out and editing out all the mistakes, but in the end, I decided to go ahead and leave them because sometimes seeing everything that went wrong could be more helpful than just seeing everything that went right. So this is probably going to be a long video, but you'll see. Okay, so the shellac is dry. And it does seem to have smoothed out some of this texture and some of this raised grain a little bit. It's still a little bubbly, so I'm going to go over it very lightly with some 320 grit sandpaper just to kind of smooth it out a little bit more. But I don't think we can get much smoother than this, really. So we'll see how it turns out after we've sanded everything. Then we'll go over it with a stain and a couple coats of top coat and see how it does. All right, so for those of you that actually know what you're doing, you probably want to smack me around a little bit because you know that this won't work. And no, this is not going to work. Um, there was so much texture and so much like flaking and lifting. No amount of shellac was going to smooth this thing out. And I sanded it down and I consulted the internet, like what's going on. I couldn't find any videos that actually address these issues. So ChatGPT and the internet said to go ahead and fill in any of these patches with a wood filler, and it recommended this aqua coat stuff because it's supposed to take a stain, and the plan was to stain it like a really dark, moody color. And I even asked, I said, "Are you sure this is going to work? Can you stain over shellac? Can you stain over top coat?" "Oh yeah, you can stain over it." So I believed it. And then I sanded the rest of the body while that wood filler dried. And in my little head, I thought that I was going to be done tomorrow, and that didn't happen. Okay, it's been about an hour, and I think this is pretty much dry, so I'm going to go ahead and sand it down and see how it looks. Okay, we've got a little bit of daylight left, so I want to get some of this darker stain on. This is espresso, and it looks like it's a stain plus poly in one step, so we'll see how it goes. I'm probably going to put another top coat on it anyway, but I do want to see what the color is going to look like, and it's going to start getting dark soon, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, this says it takes 6 hours to dry, so I want to get it on tonight so it has overnight to dry so I can finish this up tomorrow. So it's not the greatest light, but I'll have a decent enough idea. This looks terrible, you guys. It's not covering up the white at all. So now that it's after the fact, and I've had some time to really look into this and do a little bit more research, apparently you can stain over shellac and wood filler, but it's more of like a tone. And that's not what I was going for. And apparently I wasn't specific enough when I was consulting the internet for help on this topic. So after I cussed out ChatGPT for about 20 minutes, I went in and stripped off the top coat. And here I'm using the Citrus Strip Orange Stripper, and it did an okay job. I left it on for about as long as the directions said to, and a lot of it had already dried. Okay, so along the edges here, there seems to be a thicker layer of something. It looks like paint, like a tan paint underneath. And at first I thought maybe this isn't wood, maybe this is MDF or something like that. But I kept wiping away and there is wood underneath. So because it's such a thick layer, I'm going to take this carbide scraper and just kind of scrape off some of it so I don't have to be sitting here scrubbing forever. And that should speed it up a little bit because this is a timely process. So that's what I'm doing. All right, you guys, it has taken me all week to strip this thing bare. And I'm still not done. All these little details, like I had to go in there and get in all the cracks and all these, I still have to do this bit up here, and some of the bits down here. And the plan was I was gonna stain it like a really dark, moody stain, but now that it's bare wood, my husband came through here the other day and he says, "That looks awesome. I love all the wood grain." And the wood grain is really nice. I don't know if you look at the top. It's a really pretty grain, but it's not even. It's splotchy. So, and I texted it to a few people. My aunt, who's a designer, my cousin's got a really great eye for design and things like that, my mom. And everybody liked the lighter wood version. So I think we're gonna keep it light. I can always darken it later. But I do wanna neutralize some of this yellow. So I'm gonna look in my stash and see what kind of stains I have, do a little color research to kind of figure out what I can do to cancel out the yellow, because it's very yellow and I want it to be a bit more neutral, but still light to medium, nothing too dark now. So I'm gonna finish stripping off the edges, then I'm gonna go through my stains, and then I'm gonna condition the wood, and then we'll start testing some stains. But we're almost there, we're so close. Okay, so I'm gonna pre-stain with this. This is the Bare Premium Water-Based Pre-Stain Wood Conditioner. So I'm going to condition the wood first so that it goes on as evenly as possible. And then I've got the fast drying water-based wood stain by Behr in the shade Dark Walnut, which doesn't really look that dark, actually. Does it? It doesn't look too dark, but we'll see. And then I've got a Ultimate Polyurethane water-based polyurethane. So let's go ahead and get started with the conditioner. This is not going well, you guys. The only thing that I can get to remove the clumps of the really dark stain that are left behind is more of the stain. So I put more of the stain on to kind of wipe off the gloopiness that was left behind, and then it leaves a light spot. So it's just unbelievably splotchy, you guys. I think I'm gonna have to sand this down and start over with an oil-based or gel-based stain. So to be continued. All right, I thought I had footage of the first round of staining, but apparently I didn't. So what you missed was I had put some water-based stain on this top part of the dresser, and it just came out a splotchy mess. And I learned that water-based stain is quite tricky, so I'm actually trying again with the water-based stain, and I decided to use a much thicker layer, so I'm really glooping it on because it dries so fast. And then I'm going in as quickly as I possibly can. I have a stack of rags all ready to go, and I'm just wiping it off as quickly as I can so I don't get those lap marks or anything like that. So that did seem to go much better. Hey guys, this is Shauna 4 weeks in the future. It has been probably going on 5 weeks, and this dresser has kicked my ass. It has been such a challenge for me to do this dresser. I stained it, and it was like not the right kind of stain, so I had to sand it down, and then I stained it again, and it looked good, but I tried to smooth out a couple of patchy parts, and then it made it worse. And then I tried to even it all out again, and that made it worse. And so I stripped of the whole thing again, sanded the whole thing again. I've stained and resanded this thing like 3 times. So I think I've made all the mistakes I could possibly make. I've figured out exactly where I've gone wrong, and I'm ready to do it again. So I'm going to have to sand the whole thing down again because it was perfect, you guys. It was almost perfect. And then some splatters of stain got on the top. And when I came up and looked at the top, I was like, no, no. So I have to sand down the whole thing and do it again. The body is okay. I still have to do the drawers and the doors, and that's where I'm at. So I've sanded down all the drawers. I've sanded down the doors. I've just got to, I've vacuumed them down. I've just got to wipe them down with some mineral spirits, let them dry, and then I'm going to put on a wood conditioner, let that sit in for a minute, and then I'm going to go in and stain the drawers and the doors. So let's just get on with it. So we're in direct sunlight right now, but this is how the top looks so far. And this is what it looks like compared to the drawer. Hold on. You see how yellow that drawer is compared to the top? So did knock out that yellow, so that's what we're doing. I'm going to do the rest, then I'm going to do the other 4 drawers, and then I'm going to get to the doors. And there is a little issue with the doors that I'll just show you. So this part here, this piece here is not wood. This appears to be some sort of like resin or substrate or something like that. So that is not going to stain the same way as the rest of it. I've been thinking about what to do about this, and I ended up getting some stuff called Retique, which is like a primer that has wood particles in it. So I'm gonna have to take a small, tiny brush and then just go over this real quick with Retique, and then it should be able to take a stain, and hopefully it won't be too different from the rest of it. So that's the plan for the doors. So I also use the Retique along the top edge here and the ornamental details because those seem to be made of the same resin substrate, whatever it is. I don't know what it is. And I wanted to make sure it matched as closely as possible. So I first went over it with a light Retique because it comes in light and it comes in dark. And the light was just a little too light. I couldn't get the color to match quite as closely as I'd like. So I went over it with the dark. And I did have to use a gel-based stain in Kona because I found that water-based stains really just don't stain very well over this Retique stuff. So I got a gel-based stain in the color Kona, and that matched a lot better. And I did tape off the top because I had gone over this so many times. I just could not bring myself to have to restain it again. But I did learn a little trick on the way about water-based stain. If you do get a blob on it, like I did here, if you just spritz it with a little water, it just kind of wipes right off without affecting what's underneath. So it evens it out really well. I wish I would have known that a few weeks ago. And here I'm going over the bottom ornamental parts with the darker Retique, and you can kind of see the lighter underneath with the darker on the top. The darker one was just a little darker and kind of peachy. I was kind of surprised, but the stain just matched a lot better over the dark Retique, so I'm glad I made that decision. All right, so finally, the moment of truth. I get to move the dresser inside the house. We decided to put it in the living room in front of this window, and I decided to give myself a break from all the staining and the sanding and focus on the hardware for a little while. And here I'm just scrubbing the hardware with some Barkeeper's Friend, and I needed to make a mold of the back plate because one of the back plates was broken. So I did have like this casting clay stuff that I tried first, and I didn't get a very crisp mold out of it. So I saw some people using hot glue to make a mold, and that seemed to work a lot better. So I made the mold, then I mixed up some resin from a resin kit that I got on Amazon, link down below, and I poured it into the mold. And this stuff dries pretty quick, but it's kind of floppy and still a little soft when it comes out, but it hardens over time. And I did this off camera, but I spray painted it a dark black, a matte black, but it was still really shiny. So I went over it with a matte top coat, and I'm just waiting for that to dry. And then I decided to put the rest of the hardware on the drawers and the doors. And I'm just so excited to finally get this far. Okay, so I just went and picked up the piece that I spray painted, and the matte top coat definitely made it a little more matte, but it's still kind of shiny. But this is the best I can do, you guys. So we're gonna go with it. It definitely doesn't look as black as it did before. So hopefully we can get it close enough. All right, I've got 3 here. I had a whole kit of 5 golds, and I don't know where the others went, but I have the best ones anyway. I've got antique gold, gold leaf, and this one is Spanish copper, which is more of like a bronze. I don't need this, so I'm going to set this aside. And then I've got gold leaf and antique gold, and I swatched them here to see which one I wanted to do, but this was like weeks ago, and I don't remember which one was which. So I'm going to swatch them again. For this, because the other knobs and handles, the real ones, have kind of a greeny gray undertone, I'm thinking the gold leaf would go better because this antique gold is a little warmer. It's almost got like a pink undertone, and I think that will clash with the tone of the hardware. So I'm going to go with gold leaf. And let's see, make this look okay. I'm just going to put a little bit. A little goes a really long way. So I'm just going to put a little bit here. Just dab a little on my finger. And then just try to hit up the high points. Oh, no. No, 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 no. All right, that was too much. Too much. Let's rub that out. Rub it out. Come on. Man, they're not kidding. A little goes a long way. Close enough. Okay, let's go ahead and get this hardware in there. Where is the screw? Okay, guys, I'm just going to put a little bit. I just put a little bit more on the knob. Just kind of add a little bit more highlight, and I like it. I like the way it looks on the real hardware. This one, this just doesn't look great, you guys, but it'll do. It will do. All right, time to assemble everything. I'm so excited.